Don't stop. Keep dropping it. All right, thank you. Thank you, Chinoso, Kendi.
Hi guys.
All right.
Can you guys hear me? Hello.
Hello, I can hear you. Please confirm if you can hear Muktar, please.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
I
okay.
can
can.
hear you. I can hear
I
you.
can hear him.
All right. Thank you guys. Thank you, Adenike. Thank you for having me. It's a huge honor to be able to join your community and make a positive impact. My name is Muktar. I am a software engineer. Um, and we're here today to facilitate and take you guys to the journey of JavaScript, especially from the basics. I'm hoping that we'll be able to also transition into um, an intermediate experience, right? We are taking it from the basic right through the intermediate. Um, of course, I know that some people here might have a bit more of an advanced knowledge, perhaps. So you're welcome to even bring your advanced question or what the case may be. But yeah, but this would primarily focus on the basics of JavaScript on how to transition as a beginner to an intermediate. We'll also be taking insight into um, testing. So from going from core JS, that's JavaScript, to APIs, Cypress testing, then we'll have our final project, right? Um, I hope this is going to be an interesting class. And let me just Please give me a second. I'm having issues sharing, so I'm just probably going to rejoin. But give me a second.
Okay, for those that are just joining in, our facilitator is trying to share his screen. So let's just hold on for a moment while he shares the screen. You're welcome, Happiness. You're welcome, Tobechiku. Tobechiku, you're welcome. Thanks, Dayo is trying. All right. Dayo Waid, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Hello, Mukta. Emmanuel, you're welcome. Chidera, you're welcome. Right. Just hold on.
No,
Okay, while
he's
we
in the
wait.
lobby. He's in the lobby.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. All right, Muktar, are you here now?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, welcome back.
Thank you. Let me know if you can see the screen.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
All right. Thank you for having me once again. So this is going to be everything JavaScript, intermediate, capped at intermediate level. Right. So I'll be taking you through the core JavaScript, APIs, and testing. Then in between this, we would have like question sessions as well as assignments, like take home assignments, so that you guys can have hands-on experience on how this is going to go. Just give me a second. I would also be using different tools to also showcase the different practical aspects of JavaScript as well, from using my IDE, which I'm going to be using to show you how the code works on folder structures. Please feel free to ask any question along the line. No question is stupid. And I think that the more you ask questions, the more you get to clarify the confusion that you have, or what's not working right. And if there's any point in time where I go through any aspect of this and you don't understand as well, you can feel free to also bring me back as well for me to explain. That won't be any problem at all. So right about now, I'm going to be bringing this up. It is going to be my VS Code. Let me know, guys, as soon as you guys can see my VS Code as well. Awesome. All right, so let's start with this. What is JavaScript? Right, I like to explain what JavaScript is from the perspective of the history of the internet. It's just going to be very brief, right? So I'm very sure a lot of you would have heard about Web 1.0, Web 2.0. In this recent time, we've been a lot of Web 3.0. I'm sure a lot of you will be confused as regards this. What is version 1, what's version 2, and why are we in version 3? So the quick story is that there was a greater sacrifice for chips at some point in the computing world. We also had a race for the internet, so to say. So back in the days, at the early stage of things, we had the version of the internet where we only could just write to the internet. And what does write to the internet means? It means that you can create a text content, right? And within that text content, you can post it online. You can put it on a server. And you can have like like a URL, like an address, and send it to everybody in the world, and everybody can see what you posted in your document. So the first text that was ever shown to the world for everybody to see was hello world, which is why in computing world we find the use of hello world in a lot of instances, especially when you are first starting up your application. Right. So in this era, we call it the 1.0 because we could only write to the web, right? We could only write to the web. We could not comment on it. We could not edit it. We could not write to it. So we could only read to it rather. Someone would post somewhere and everybody would read it. That was what 1.0 to be precise. And what that essentially means is that it was a one-way traffic. If I post a content online, what everybody else could do, the most you could do is to read it. You can't comment, you can't do anything. So along the line, we had Web 2.0, and what did that bring? Which is where we are at the moment. But, sort of, for some people to argue that Web 3.0 is not really a thing yet, but that's an argument for another time. So come Web 2.0, people could then read this content. As reading it, also comment, you could also write to it. Meaning that when I say hello world, I can also add my own contribution to say, what is hello world, and the person on the other side will say everybody else also see the content. So we could write, not just to read that at this point in time. A small step around what it is that this is when crypto comes in to say blockchain, to be very precise, to say now we have a blockchain where you could edit a certain document online, and that version of that document is the same across board. So it serves as authenticity, right? And nobody can take that thing off. So if you write a document or you upload something to blockchain today, you can never take it off again. Right? It's there to stay permanently. Right. So where does JavaScript come in is how the web works. Now, because this is going to be focused on the fundamentals, which is to do a bit to HTML and CSS. Now, if you can see my screen, I'm going to create. We're going to get a bit.
We can't see your screen anymore. I don't know if it's only me.
Okay, let me.
All right.
No.
It's coming up.
Yes, your screen is up.
Okay.
Awesome. Right. So, like I said, I'm going to be doing a bit of HTML and CSS. I'm going to also briefly explain what that is as well. So today we have the web. So if you go to a good example, like I'm going to insert here is Google, right? We have google.com, which is what we see here. Now, what makes up this very page? All pages, right? All web pages in the world, as far as day one of the internet is concerned today, and I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. That are all pages. I mean, we have conventional method now, which is like more advanced method, but they still make up of JavaScript. So all pages must always have HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now, what is HTML? This is the structure of the page, right? If I take away the CSS of this page, for example, all you see is a bunch of text and this image just aligned to the left. Everything will not make sense. All right. So the structure in terms of the text itself, this icon that we see here, this image that we see here, all of these things, all of this content that we see here, everything here, so to say, they're all HTML content. Right. So, but we'll get into practical to see how that works. So what is CSS precisely? So CSS is just what makes it look beautiful. The alignments, how we can arrange this to the right hand side, to the top right, and have the top left blank. We have this image in the middle here. You know, even the colors, the size of the text, the size of each of this menu, right, is all done with. Now, what is Java? What is HTML and CSS without interaction? Now, as soon as I put my mouse there, it shows me my recent searches. Now, what I want to point out precisely is that I click here, like for example, it brings up this pop-up where I can scroll in. This is where JavaScript comes in. Now, nobody just wants to go to a page where you just same bunch of text and images with able to interact with things. So JavaScript is what then brings that element into being. Right? With JavaScript, we can interact. I can put my mouse over a certain item on the page, and I can engineer a behavior to occur. So essentially, we can look at HTML as the skeleton of a page, right? Which is your skeleton. Now, what are you without your skeleton? What is the skeleton without skin, without the eyes, without the hair, right? That's where CSS comes in, right? So if you have your skeleton, you have your skin over it, right? You have your body structure, you have your melanin tone, your skin color. You know, CSS is what beautifies that very skeleton, so that we don't get to see the ugly bones and all. No, so where does JavaScript come in? It's interaction. How you move your hand. You can jump. You have certain attributes. By the time you throw one hand up, you know, you can then engineer what the certain behavior should be of that human anatomy. Right. So into practical a bit here. Again, we have our ID here. This is called VS Code, and this is what we use in real life experience to actually code. Right, this is what we use in real life experience. A lot of people use different IDs, right? But ideally, VS Code is just one of the most popular IDs, would say. Full meaning of ID is integrated development environment. It should not matter that you know the full meaning of this, right? When it's so serious and you get to, let's say, on an interview level, nobody will ask you what all of the acronyms mean, but it's just good to know it. But I think what I did implement the first few weeks of my right. So getting into practical, right? What makes up a page, right? Would have so how do you introduce HTML into a page, for example? How do you introduce CSS? How do you introduce JavaScript? Now we can go in straight into JavaScript and touching HTML. That's how wide it is. And a fun fact in the history of JavaScript that I forgot to mention again is that JavaScript was never meant to be this big. I see JavaScript as the goat of all languages. Now, when I say this amongst my peers and colleagues, you know, they raise their eyebrow because some of them are Java, some of them are Python engineers, but I hold the opinion that JavaScript is the goat of all languages. And why is that? Because JavaScript was a baby that was never meant to be this big. JavaScript was only meant to be adding interactions to web pages. But now we have JavaScript on the front end of things, which is primary. That is what it's known for. Now we have JavaScript on the back end. You can now build server-side languages or server-side applications, architectures with JavaScript now. And you can even go into machine learning and AI with the same JavaScript. So will I say that you can know it all? The answer is you would never know. At some point, you will know things to the extent that you think you know it all, but then you see some things that you just have never seen before. Be like, well, for all of my years in engineering, I'm finding out new things. So JavaScript is not going anywhere. It's a language that you can bank on. You can bank on so much that you'll be relevant in all aspects of engineering, front end, back end, machine learning, engineering. Name it, you would always be relevant as a JavaScript engineer. So getting started, like I said, we're going to start with the basics of things. What are is how they are in the real world. Because one of these things I've noticed in when learning let's say programming entirely or generally is that a lot of time there are a lot of technical gibberish that go up and down. The question will always be, how does this even relate in real life scenario? What's the essence? What is the essence of all of this code we're writing? How does it matter in the real world? So I like to take my teachings through those kind of experience, through those kind of analysis, so that it makes it makes a very detailed sense to you. Conventionally, you would find, let's say I call this my file, for example, and I call this, and I give it .js. Now, if you look at this .js, this is the extension. Now, I've not pressed enter on my keyboard, but my VS Code, which is the again IDE that I'm using, is also enough to know that this is a JavaScript file, right? Now, if I remove this .js, then it's confused and sees that a normal file. It's not able to do anything with it, but it doesn't know what you want to do with it. Does not know the kind of file it is. So a brief thing about IDEs as well is that they are smart enough to also undo a lot of your coding journey. So if you're coding in Python, your IDE will be smart enough to know that it's a Python language you're writing or it's a Python program you're writing. Again, let's also know, I also forgot to mention that the essence of programming as a whole, right, is usually just to solve problems. If you think about it today, at some point you will be so skilled that you will be able to build anything. You can sit down one weekend and build a Facebook clone, right? Right, because you have the power to do it. I like to see engineers like bricklayers, because you can build a house. You literally can just, show your stunt and start building. So, but the essence of building all of these things is usually to solve problems. Now, if we look at this, we're using Microsoft Teams to handle this meeting, right? But all of these things, all of this JavaScript embedded, which is this thing itself, right? I'm using the web version, meaning that they had to use JavaScript to write or build the web version of this, right? And what are they trying to do with that? They're trying to solve a problem because they know that the majority of people would use their browser to also try to attend meetings. So the essence of programming or any sort of programming is always to solve problem. If it's not solving problem, you're just having fun, so to say. Now, I'm going to include another file here. I would like to also take you through the journey of how you can even get started with the project, because you might not know how I even landed here. So I'm using Mac OS, which is a Mac computer. So give me a second. Let me change my view now. Now I have this folder called TS101. It's a folder I created before. Now I want to do something. I want to review this in Finder. Now I created a folder. Inside my folder, anything I do inside here, which is any file I create inside here, automatically shows up here. So let's take that as an example again. So I come here and I create a new file and call it my file. So if I come back here, I'm going to see this file here. You know that all the file, I don't need to come here to create my file and folder. Then I come here to continue my work. Like all of this thing can be done within this IDE. So right about on these two files are useless. I'm going to just delete them. Right now, we're going to start with the script .js. Now with this script.js, what exactly are we trying to achieve here? Right, this is we've successfully created our first JavaScript file, right? And with this file, we can do a lot of things. We can write a lot of programs. We can, we can perform magic with it. But I would like us to obviously start from the fundamentals of things, from what a variable is, types of variables, and why they all differ as well. Okay, good. So let's start what a variable. Do you guys does anyone have any questions so far before it's quite practical into the class? Is there any question yet? Okay, I will take that as a no. Okay, I see someone's on. Okay, hi Kende. I love that question. What's up? What do you have?
Yeah, good afternoon, sir.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yeah, just a quick one. I don't have the VS Code ID. If I want to install it, should I just accept all the defaults?
What options are you saying?
I didn't get that, sir.
Are you asking if you should accept the default? Is
Yes,
it doing it?
on the installation. I'm trying to install it now.
All right. So I think I even have to apologize to you guys for not running you through that. I didn't know that you guys would probably want to have a hands-on experience as well. I was thinking after this, we can then transition into the installation process, how to get to your IDE and how to get started, right?
Okay. Okay, it's okay, sir.
So we can go in afterwards, right? So I just want you guys to concentrate on what we are doing at this moment. You don't need to install anything yet. Afterwards, we'll go into what installation and what take-home assignment will be against the next class. But thank you, Kennedy, for bringing that up. Right. So like I said, I created a script.js file and I deleted it too. So if I come to my folder, I'm going to see the same file here. Now, all right? You can look at it like an entity that holds a value. What is value? Right? Value could be your name, your data type, so to say. Right? So we would need to look into what we can then store into all of these variables. So what are different kind of variables we have, or the other declaration that we have? Back in the days, we used to have what we call var. So in a variable could just be var my age is equal to 99. And what does this mean? To start with, now if I ask you is exactly as I've written it, it's going to tell me your age is 99. And how does it know that? Because I've declared to say that my age is 99. Now, we could assign any value to this. It could be 1, it could be 2. But essentially, what we want to do is you just don't want to leave the number 99 there. We want to always go back to get that value anytime we want it. So anytime you want something, right, you need to say, anytime you want to refer to a value right in the future, you'd always have to save it in a variable. A good example is when you log into Facebook or Instagram today, how does it know when you enter your email and your password, how does it know that it's you? It's because they have a record, right? And when you were signing up there, you remember the first time you were signing up, you entered your first name and your last name. Those values were saved in a variable, right? Now, how they were saved could differ in a lot of ways. We'll still go there. We'll still get into what an object is and the likes. But the essence, what I want you to take from there is that values can be stored in variables, right? It could then be a number. It could be a text. So now, what I think we can say in a variable, different things, like I said. But before that, we'll go into different kind of variable declarations. We have var. We have let's say my, of course, because we can have two variable names, right? Let's call it okay, my age, so is 12. Let me switch off just my ring. So okay. So we have okay, let's not even call it my age, let's call it my name, or let's call it first name. All right, is equal to right, and that says, so because I already have like two variables with the same name, my ID is already smart enough to let me know that, oh, you can't have two declared variables with the same name. So I can call this last name. I can call this Yusuf. Now, we'll notice that right? We'll notice that the first item we use, the variables, but why did we use one we use less? Not, let me zoom in again so that you guys can very well. So we have right? It's start right to why we should use or when should we use each of these items and how. We'll go into that variance when we go into function so that it then makes sense to you why we should use these different ones and when we should use them. But essentially what I want to explain in this variable is that whenever you're using var and let, you can redeclare the values to this. So I can come here to say first name is equal say let's say search now this is going to be because again I just spoke one and said I want to change my first name to Adenike. I can easily come here to say okay change this first name that we have to Adenike. So what if I don't want to Adenike, so I don't want to change my last name. Come in and say my last name. Let's say Oladeji, right? Oladeji. Now, if you have this last name here, by the time we run this program, this right here will then give an error to say you cannot declare this. So essentially, this will give an error eventually, because where const is used is that you can always declare the values of this. You can never reassign the value. So this is done because there were instances where you would mistakenly override the value of a variable, and because we don't want that, that's where const came to be. So with const, what we can always make sure is that anytime we declare our value, we are sure and we are very sure that this value would never be changed. Right. So then brings us to what data type is. And just to declare, so with this double quote, what it is double quote that is double quotes, it really doesn't matter. They all perform the same thing. But the best practice will always be that whatever you start with is what you finish with. So I would love to start with my double quoted top. So we then go into data types. What are data types that JavaScript supports? Right. We have like different types of number, which is this. So immediately I put it around it, it automatically becomes a string. It is no more a number. JavaScript will not see it as a number again. First name and last name, we notice that they're all in quotes. Even this with declarations as well, they're all in what? This is telling JavaScript that this first name and last name are quotes. And what are strings rather? So the data types we have in JavaScript, we have string, we have Boolean, we have undefined, null, as well as symbol. Symbol was recently just introduced. And we have big ints now, but again, these are just data type. But a lot of time, what you most find yourself working with the most are numbers, string, boolean. I'm going to put this also into examples as well, so that you see the practical example of them. we've seen the types of numbers. So this is a number. I'm also going to explain to you. This is a string. Right. So, and also in data types, as much as we have numbers and string, this can be also being used. Right, so we've seen what the number looks like, we've seen what the string looks like. So what is the Boolean? The Boolean, just like just like we taught back in school, it's just true or false. Something true or something false, right? So we can have a constant to say again. So I like to use constant because I like to be safe in my variables. So you most likely find me using const a lot, right? So we can have a constant to say, are you a Nigerian? Right. And I can say true, right? Now, this is what a Boolean looks like. So number again, don't forget, a string, Boolean. And you can see that the values are sort of different. If I was to wrap this in a quote, I'm automatically transforming this guy to a string, but that's not what we want, right? What we want precisely is a Boolean. And you can see the color is different because VS Code is able to know that this is a Boolean. So the value that this can have can either be a true or a false. But again, I'm going to go with true, in this case. So if I say, are you British? Right, I can say here false. So these are examples of Booleans. And this is precisely how they're written in JavaScript, with lowercase like this. All right. So the next data type I want us to look at is undefined. Undefined is really tricky. Undefined is when you don't declare something. So I can say have a variable. You can see we don't have middle name here, and I want to say, I want to declare what my middle name is, or someone asks for my middle name. Because we don't have it here, JavaScript is going to tell you it is undefined, meaning that it was never defined, so it doesn't know where to look for. But undefined is a value. And what does that mean? Is I can then come in to say, let middle name be equal to, let's call this, identity. Now, if I then name at this point in time, it's going to give me a valid answer and tell me that the value of middle name is identity. But what if we do not give it a value? Also valid. Only that it has no declaration. I want to come later because we are name, but we're not giving it a value to start with. Is that time we call on a value of the name, it's just going to be blank, nothing to give us. But a lot of time, find this kind of practice because you want to come back later, maybe when you get to some level of your program, to update the value of middle name. That is when you see this kind of declaration. But a lot of times as well, you variable the value. This is very. So it means that to start with, I don't want to declare the value for this middle name. I want to give it undefined. It's a valid data type, right? Then also we have like the let's do this. Yeah, call this undefined. Again, so we have now we have 4 data types now. So we're going to the next one, which is null. So I can there come in to say that let's say school at I can give it a null. No, very similar to this. They're all different data types itself. And what does null mean? Similar to what undefined is. Null is more like a nullified value where more like an empty value. Something does not exist. It's empty. Now, undefined would mean that you did not declare it. Because if you query for the value of this, it will be undefined. Also, if you don't declare it, that means if it never existed, it's also undefined. So you can as well also give a value undefined to start with. But null just means empty. It means that the variable exists, but the value is empty. So you would a lot of time find the value for the value of a variable interchanged with undefined as well as variable. But a lot of times, if you want to declare a variable to start with and you don't give the value, you can either obviously go with this method that I earlier showed, right? Or you can just give it null. Null means that this, as much as the variable exists, you still nullify if you are given an empty value to start with. Now there's no value for that variable, we can call it null. Now, these are categories of what we would call primitive data types. Again, like I said, there are the different kind of data that we have today. We can have data in different forms, right? We can have it in, just like you said, number here, string here, and this cuts across all languages, right? So in obviously in today's world, you would find that you hear that JavaScript now deals with symbols, as well as big ints. Now we're going into this very data type because they're going to be way out of scope. We're going to be ensure throughout the course of this we'll not use this at all. Right. But for the context of the existence, we acknowledge that they exist and which is what I'm mentioning it here. But what I want you to focus on are what we call primitive types and non-primitive types. Right. They can then go into other primitive types. Obviously, they're all data types. They're all data types. So we have what we call objects, and we have what we call array, right? And well, function valid data type as well. Now, I know that all of this might seem a bit gibberish to you, but it all will make sense by the time you start using them interchangeably. Right. And what are the examples of objects we have today? So we can say that, again, let's use a constant, right? And again, another variable person, right, is, this is where you can then give, this is how technically our data is sort of saved in the cloud in most of our applications today. So what would the person, what would they usually have? We can say that a person will always have a first name, last name. Now, even age, right? Then we can have, let's say, marital status. Now, how do you set an object? What is an object? So an object is usually declared with curly braces like this, right? I'm going to also remove everything inside here so that you see it better. So define as a curly brace like this. So this is usually how most data are saved. So again, I use an example of Facebook the other time. When you log into Facebook or Instagram, how do they know that you're not returning, and how do they go and fetch your actual data to know that, oh, this is this person's first and last name? Because your data is saved in an object somewhere, and this object can be very long, can have a lot of things, right? But obviously, every data are going to be your own data. So things waiting from first name, last name, email, even your password, your encrypted password as well, right? So every data about each person is saved in an object. Even with the government, when they query your NIN today, what comes back is an object, right? So how do we declare an object? Well, how do we populate it with data? What's the syntax like? When I say syntax, is just how you write. So a person would always have first name, like I mentioned. Now, because we declared first name, I'm going to do some interesting thing, which is I can then bring these values that I have here, all of these values, I can bring them inside here. But let's start with some basic syntax on how you even write an object afresh. So if I want to say again, I think attended then, okay. I want to do get the marital status then, marital status. Ideally, when we're declaring a variable, you would have used equal to. So if I set equal to, let's say, single, right, you can see our VS Code is already giving us an error. So underline to tell us that, did you mean to use this column instead of an equal to? Obviously, it then suggests to you to change it. Again, it's an ID, that's why it's smart enough to know that you've made a mistake. But so what that means is that the right way to write an object will always be, it's called a key pair value. This is the key, and this is a value. Right. So and you'll notice that there's a certain way I'm writing my variable names and this key as well. You can see that as I'm writing this, I'm putting the beginning of the word starting with lowercase, the next word is starting with uppercase. So this is called a camel case. There are different ways you can write a variable. The most important thing is that you write it in a way that will be readable. If another person picks up your code, can they easily know read the name of the variable? So we have different kind of ways of writing variable. We have this camel case today, which is for you to be indenting, for you to be capitalizing the first letter of each word, except for the first one. You know, we have snake case as well, which is where you start putting underscore between each one. You know, you find that common in Python, but in JavaScript, far and wide, you would always come across the use case of a camel case. Now, this is so what if we want to another value inside this object? Let's call this state of origin, right? State of origin. Now, ideally, I cannot just come to the next line. Obviously, I'll come to this and say it again. My code will be readable. I could as well written it. I could have as well written it here and continue, right? But by the time someone gets to code, my code, you know, it'll be harder for them to even also interpret it or read it, which is why a lot of times you always go to the next line to refine your next statement. Right. So the next thing I want to do is again state of origin. Now I can come to say state of origin, and I can say, you know, Lagos state. I'm going to put state. I'm going to put space here so you can declare string. Now, we'll notice that JavaScript is already underlining this for us. It tells us that it's expecting a comma somewhere. That's because when writing an object, you separate each value, each key pair value with a comma. Now, except for the last one is not compulsory for you to put it there. As far as the last one, meaning that we can have multiple values like this, right? Make sure you separate everything with comma, except for the last one. Now, an interesting thing that I'm going to bring on an intermediate level, I'm going to borrow from that so that you know from now, is that when you are declaring an object, you can import values from outside of it. When I say outside of it, it means outside of this curly bracket here, because everything inside here only exists inside of here. But what you want to do is I want to also then bring, how do we bring this first name and last name value inside here? Now, what do we want to call the key? We want to call this first name, right? And again, don't forget that we'll give it a value, and then repeat to say, you know, Muktar. This is repeating a code. Well, what we don't want to do is always repeat ourselves for what you've already declared. So to solve this, we want to bring this first name here inside here. So we don't need to also write this at all again. So what we don't want to do is want to call it first. Now, you can see the error has gone. There's no error at this point in time. If you put our mouse here, so on your keyboard, for those who already have VS Code, if you press Ctrl on your keyboard and put your mouse on it, it's going to want to refer the value for you for where it takes. So if I click here, my cursor automatically takes me to let me know that this value that we're having here is the same as this. This guy was just brought down here. And if I put press Control, it tells me that the value for this first name is Muktar, which is what we have declared at the top here. Now, how does this differ from this? This first thing that we're saying is not the same thing as this. This is just a key. It's just a key. But this right here has become a value. The first time we add an encounter with this is a declaration. So after this declaration, any other place we use first name will always be a value. It will always then result to the value of this. So it is in this case we are saying that the value of what we are calling first name, we want it to be this first name that we declared before. Now we can call this anything. We can call this my first name. Doesn't mean. It means that when we say person, when we're looking for the value of my first name inside of person, it will give us this value here, which is Muktar. So again, for the sake of clarity, here we now always call this first name. Now, in modern JavaScript world, we can always then come here to say, we found this very repetitive to say that, oh, first name as a key, give it a value of first name. They are the same name, so lots of times there's a shorthand, and the shorthand value is just to remove this and just say first name. Now I'm going to take this to the top so that we see it clearly. If we see it more clearly, right, we know that we group it better so that, okay, our shorthand values are at the top and our new declarations are at the bottom. Now we want to bring in last name as well. We can just come in to say last name as well. All we have to do is just a comma, right? If I put my mouse over here and I press Control or Command, the keyboard could have, it always tells us what the value is. So we don't need to repeat this. I'm just going to repeat this for the sake of that. We can also write it in long form. And can also shorten it. Now, what is an array? An array is also data type, and where that comes in is also how we can save data. So usually a list. Well, we want to save. So if you look at your teams right about now, we're going to teams here, right? Now we can have on my screen here, we have Muktar here, we have Kende, we have Adenike, we have Dayo, we have it white like that. We even have like 3 other pages. But how did teams, as Microsoft themselves, how did they bring us together in this place? We're all a list. We're all inside the list. And how did they store our data? What they definitely use there is an array, meaning that they have a bracket of a list. They now put all of us inside that array, so they can then be able to unpick whatever they want, who is speaking at the moment. Again, I like to tie all of this to a real life example so that you know how it's used in the real world, right? So this brings us to, again, an array. And how do we represent an array, right? You can see an object, have call it widgets. I want to say my best friends, or I can call it again. Don't forget, we are declaring a variable, so we're calling it constant my best friends. Okay. Okay, so we're calling my best friend. Let me change it. So what is an array? So I want to list I want to just itemize the list of my best friends. You can see the syntax of this is different. We have this, the bracket is different. Right? The syntax is different. You can see our object is calling, but this is more straight line than this. You'll find this on your keyboard as well. I'm not sure what this is called, what this is called in English, but again, we can see that it's just different. That's like important in here. And then start mentioning things here, 3, 4. So I'm putting 1, 2, 3, 4 so that I can show you the basic syntax of what you can put in an array. Now, how many items do we have inside here? We have 4 items, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if we look at all of these items, we can always have what? different data types. We can come here to say one. In the second item, we can say Muktar. In this one, we can say, let's say, but essentially what I want to show you here is that you can have different items. They're technical items, right? Because you would always hear inference for people saying item in an array. Any value you find there is also called an item. But let's look at each of these items. They can come in different data types that we've mentioned. All of them can exist inside here, respectively. I can come and declare a new one. I can declare a string here. In short, I can bring my previous value here. I can say last name. But and what is so we got it from this last name, 6. And we this value. Let's look at this person. We can even come here to say we want our port value to be person. First name, last name, that type. And let's call this, let's even have another way to say, I have another way that is called, or let's call it initial array. And let's just give it, even this an empty array, it means I don't have the value. You can even that want another value to be initial. Because my VS Code is already smart enough to let me know that, oh, this is what they're trying to infer, because it has it in its memory. So if I put over here, it tells initial array to an empty array or an array of anything. You can ignore this for now, which is TypeScript oriented. That's to be for another day. But then it tells me what initial array is, right? Now, I use an example then when I said, oh, Microsoft brought all of us together, put us in a list. So technically, what Microsoft have done, what Teams has done is that each of us as a person, we have our data with Microsoft. And what they've done, each of us data, an array like this. So, meaning that on this list of items, and these the 3 items they now obviously just render for us on the browser or on our app or mobile app, as a case may be. Now, each one of us, don't forget, their own object of each person is more than what we're having here. Obviously, if you look at the screen, you find everybody's initial MAD, as the case may be. That they also have something called initials. But they would have also computed to get the first item in our first name and the first character again in our last name. Combine them together and they call it initial. And that's what we see on the screen. This is how things are done in the real world. If someone employs you now to say, oh, I want you to build something from something similar to Teams, you know exactly how to arrange your data and how to extract your values and save them and use it for whatever computation you want to do. Now, what is the function? Now, the function right here is, and yes, they're definitely going to, right? I said I'll do yes, I think someone is asking a question in we can all, if you can drop your questions as I'm progressing so that you don't forget to, ask. You can drop your notes there. So by the time we'll just, refer back to it. So what is a function? A function is a variable that executes an action. What does execute action mean? It means that I want to click a button. I want it to happen, right? You have to have written a function that sits somewhere, then attach to that button to say, anytime I click this button, I want this function to, right? And a good example, so in this again, The reason why I'm using the keyword back in this is that, again, JavaScript has been existing for a while, but again, it's been modernized. It's been a lot of this syntax has been improved. We have better ways of writing a lot of things now, right? And a good example of a function that I want to write is, let's say we have function, my initial first one. Let's call this my first function. Now, how do you write a function? You can see that my ID is already underlining this for me to let me know that, oh, I don't know. It will give you an error to let me know that this declaration like this can only be used in some certain files, because it expects that it thinks I'm declaring a type here, right? But if you want to write a function, it's quite different from how we're writing every other variable. Now, this my function here is also a variable, but it's a function, right? So how do we generate a function, right? Function, keyword function, the variable we want to give it, we put a bracket in front of it, then a curly bracket. Now, how have we been writing the previous variable so far? We've been using the keyword const, length, and a one-time use of var. Right? But a function is quite different because again, it's actionable. So it doesn't follow this. Right? Now, I'm still going to give us another way of writing a function in case we also want to go through this route. Right? So a good way to go about it would be we then have this function to start with. Then inside here, we then can express whatever we want. Now, we have different things we can then do here. A lot of time before writing a code, before even writing your project at all or anything, the first thing you want to ask yourself is, what do I want to achieve with this? That's really the first. If you feel that first question, you will just be writing your code aimlessly. So a lot of times you always get to ask yourself, what do I want to build? What do I want to do? So the question I'm asking myself is, what do I want to do with this function? Anytime this function is called, what action do I want? So there are different things I can do here. I can say, anytime this function is called, I want to change the value of my first name. I want to change to, Adenike, right? And I come here to say, how do we then refer back to this last name, first name rather, right? I come here to say, let's call. Now, this if I just write first name here like this, it's not invalid. That anytime this thing is called, it just remembers this first name because we are not telling it to do anything. So what we want to do is called a reassignment. It means that we want to change the value of first name. So now, and how do we change the value of a variable? It's very simple. Same syntax as this, only that we're not declaring it. Don't forget, anytime you put this declaration keyword here, it means you're declaring it as afresh, you're bringing it into existence. But here it already exists. So what we want to do is just change the value. So we can say first name here is equal to. Now, the difference between this and this right here is that, again, we have a keyword of let here. And how are we able to change it? It's because we use the keyword const. So if I come here to say last name, now this would so I see how exactly it's behaving. Now, this why it would not be right because again we okay. This right here will not be right because again we've already declared const before. And remember I said that whatever you declare with const, you cannot update it again. Right. But we have something commenting in programming. JavaScript will be precise. There are different ways we can comment. So meaning that when your code is running, when it gets to that commented line, it skips it. So a commented code is just what you want to keep that code there, but you don't want it to run. More like you keeping it aside. So because this last name now, right, is a constant, and I'll show you that you give an error when you're going to update it, is that I'm going to comment it out. Now you can manually write this by putting this two faults right now. You can see it will be out. All right. Just like this means that when this function is called, nothing will happen. It will totally ignore this. But again, forget that what we want to change the first name. And we want our new first name here to be identical here. So it means that anytime we want this my function, right? We want our first name to change to identical. So we run this function. The value for first name will also not be for Muktar again, it's not be identical. So let's go to how we write function for the second way of writing a function. So we're going to refer back to the more modernized way of writing a function now. And it's similar to how we've been writing all of these variables by saying a constant, right? Best practice is always to use a constant for a function, because you always don't want a situation where your function will be mistakenly renamed, right? Renamed to something else. Let's say another declaration or overriding the value of a function, because function is just supposed to be an actionable variable that we call upon anytime we need it. So we can keep my function two, let's make my second function. But then just like we did before, but the syntax is a bit different this time around. We then have our curly bracket, our function, and this. Now, if I want to call upon this or execute the same kind of behavior in this, I can just copy everything we have inside this curly brackets and also put it here. It will do just the same thing, right? It will do exactly the same thing, meaning that this function here and this function here will do exactly the same thing, but they're just written differently, right? Now we have something called hoisting. And what does this mean? And closure, like that. It means that at what level is our variable available to be used? Now, you can see that when we wanted to do this first name, we said first name is equal to identical. That's because we are referring to the first name that already existed at the top here. Now, let's look at this middle name. This middle name here does not have a value. So let's come to this, our second function here. So we declare or to now give middle name a value this time around. So we want to say, right, is equal to this kind of. Now, there's something I want us to take a look at here. What if we then call a variable that does not exist? Let's say we call it again, I'm going to comment this out for now. I'm going to call this this method. Oh, let's make this name now. Name is equal to ending. Now, this is going to be very confusing, but by the time we function, it's going to tell us that I don't know what son name is. In short, by the time you put your mouse on it, does not even know how to tie it to anything. If I put my mouse on this first name, it tries to tell me, oh, there's something called first name, and the data and the type of the data it holds is a string. Right? Now I have my mouse on the screen, it doesn't really know how to tie it to anything. Right? So if you run this, it's going to give an error. Now, where does hoisting come to be? Play part here. Now, this first name here can be accessed inside these functions. Obviously, you can access inside this object as well. But function is it's very special because it's actionable. We want to be inside the function, we want to be able to refer to data that are outside of the function and inside the function. But what if we have a data inside the function and want to access it outside? That becomes very difficult. Because by the time we declare something here, let's say again, inside here we have, I'm going to comment this, and let's give some spacing. When I say constant, surname is equal to, let me pick another person's name again. I say Samuel here, so I say Samuel, right? Now you can see that the color of this surname is different, because it tells us that surname is declared. That's understandable, but the value is never read, meaning that we just declared it and we just abandoned it there. So, but what do we want to use what do we want to do with this surname? Now, I want us to then, there's something called, so I'm going to do a bit of rendering now, which is everything we've been doing. Let's take it to the browser to go and see the result of what we've been doing so far. Now, there are different ways we can execute this our file. Different ways, different a lot of ways. But the way we're going to be using a lot of times is through the browser, which is that let's take this to a real life scenario, right? And go and execute it. So I'm going to come here. I did it now. You'll notice that I'm going to run a, what's it called? This might go live here. I'll also explain to you what it does. So that you also know exactly what and how you can trigger it to end as well. 1, 2, 3. Now, I'm going to create some files there, which I'm going to refer back to much later. This is HTML, right? What I'm going to do here is to show you what my image. Um, and right here, I'm going to have scripts. Again, I'm going to explain to you what exactly all of these things are. I'm going to the script. Now, again, I'm going to make an inference to a real life scenario. If you look at your browser, your google.com, everything you do today, this is how they do it. Engineers that work day to day, 9 to 5, this is what they do. If today Google wants to come here to say, let's say they want to come here to change Google search, they don't want to just change to search, not just Google. Coming to the H of the HTML file, this is Google search, right? This is Google search, right? Find Google search. Now, let's say they want to change it to just my Google search. I promise you that on a 9 to 5 basis, let's say your task for the day that you're supposed to do is just to change this Google search to my Google search. They are actually come to the HTML file and doing that. And when they do this, they tell the whole world that we release a new update. Now Google search has changed to my Google search. The job for the day is done. So I'm not trying to bring that very high caliber environment down to this very small room that we're in. That what we're doing right now is exactly how a real life how real life applications have been written and been updated. Now, our focus for now, what we want to do is we want to now, and by the time it is, I have to fire up this my here. There's a group that was here that file itself, this index of it. I'm using note down is live server. What live server does is that it allows you to preview what you're working on locally. You can preview it on the web. Come to the then automatically when you click on that go live, that one I cannot start up because yeah, let me say. So this is why I didn't on your VS Code, you will type extraction. That's exactly what I generated the file. Then again, this is more of HTML. In line with the but sort of outside the scope still. HTML the structure. Example, this page. Right, inspect here now and nice. You put all this head, body, HTML, everything that check all browser, all web pages that you have in what artists. So if you then look it's still HTML. This same HTML. So today, if I now start deactivating some things, some CSS things, you notice that the page itself will start changing. Right. So again, what made it fine and beautiful, we then start removing one by one. So what I then did was to bring in, how do I want to, every time you're writing, how do I want to bring it to the browser? Don't forget this new page. So because I click on that go live, automatically started the ports. So they don't have two ends. What they also have in their code is they have what's called title. The title here. So this title that Google, which is also what we have. There's 1,000 many zeros to it. By the time I come back to my browser, so again, in a real life scenario, if someone is changing the value of the title because they are coming here to change it, just there's no magic to it. But the interesting thing is all these people. Now it's not, you don't have to necessarily put the well, like I want my again the rule of hosting also comes here. How JavaScript runs is that it will always run from top to bottom, meaning that when we fire this code, what's happening is that it starts running from here to bottom, meaning that it's not going to run line 43 before line 2. No, that's not possible. So what I also want to achieve is that I want all my pages, everything on my page, to run, to be ready. I want my HTML to be ready before my JavaScript even gets injected into the page. So what I'm doing here is I'm injecting this file inside. I'm connecting both of them together. Yeah. So then how do we do that? Would I just file the name of our file, and that's pretty much it as the salary. So attribute and this attribute, right? In attributes, what SRC expects. By the time you put your mouse over it again, it also explains to you what it does. This is attribute that specifies the URI or an external script. What that means is that we've created a file somewhere. We then want to import it. Now you can see that we just put the name of the file there. If this was inside a folder called JS, we create a folder. We then move this inside here. By the time we move it, right? Now our page then gets broken because again, this script it doesn't know where to find it anymore. I know it's not giving an error now, but by the time we come here, you can see where we have an error here to tell us that it refuses to execute the script from this part because just because it doesn't exist, that's what it means. You can see 404, which is our normal 404 is an error. The server that something found, right? But as soon as I do JS / So what I'm particularly telling you is that there's a folder for JS, and inside that folder is a file script for JS. Now, I'm doing that. What I miss is that look for this file inside of it. If you find it, execute it, which is what we're having here. Now, you'll be wondering what this 1, 2, 3 is doing here, right? If you enter my refresh page, you would always see this content and you always see this 1, 2, 3. Now, where is this 1, 2, 3 coming from? It's coming from this file. So I intentionally put it so that to know when this is successfully executed. Now, why is it the 1, 2, 3 that is showing here? That's because that's the only action done. Now, again, we then ask this console of log. This is the way we print information to the console of the browser. If I come here and see Google's page now, if I click console now, I expect that if they add anything here, this is what will be here. Right? So if I come to, let's say I go to Kilimanjaro, right? You can see that's because since from error to information they want to put in console, right? You can always do all of this by executing it like this. Now, let's start looking into how we can then start testing this. So how does the browser know my age is 99? How do we use this value in real world? Right, which is where we then go into DOM. But I want to save that particularly for the next class. But it's a quick snippet into what that is how does JavaScript actually interact with this page precisely? How do we, if I want to change the text of this from my JavaScript, I don't want to do it from here. I want to do a lot of magic from here without touching here. Right, I want to change the color of this. I want this guy to be jumping like this. I want that when I put my mouse on it, it should expand. You know, we can use JavaScript to achieve all of these things, which is then called DOM manipulation. Right? That's called DOM manipulation. So when I say DOM, it's just DOM, right? And it's document object model. Again, you don't have to memorize this, but it's always good to know what it is, right? In case you hear a similar keyword, you're able to know where probably generates from or degenerates from, right? But to round this up to this level, let's employ a bit of the things we have been manipulating so far. Again, we come to log right to our browser. Right. So let's start with this. Age. What is the value of age? Did you change it at any point? No, we didn't. So console.log, how is written is just console.log. Then you put your bracket like this, and you put whatever value you want out of this. If I say my name star and my last name, my and the last name is Muktar Yusuf. By the time I come to my browser, you can see I have the exact information here. It's all making sense. We can declare a data, we can declare a variable or data and log it to the browser. In short, we can make that's why everything you see, if you're using the browser version of your Teams, right? Everything you see right on your screen. This is why it's done. Maybe with obviously some advanced tools, but try it's done. Right. So we don't want to directly plug all of the variables we've been writing so far. So I can come here to say age. Now, if I say age 1, I can't find age 1, but did you mean age? No. So I don't want to correct me. If I come here, so I'm trying to look for what the value of age 1 is. But because we don't have age 1 declared already, it tells us that there's a reference error already, which is age 1 is not defined because they can't find it anywhere. And again, this line is also smart enough to let us know that this error is coming from a file called script.js, line 43. This one even tell us that this is happening at script.js line 43. I think it's called column, like the exact space, counting from the left, 13, right? If you can see this number here, you can see line 43, which makes sense. So a lot of times you can then go to the exact place where this error is coming from. It lets you know where the error is coming from. I would like to chip in something again. So when programming, I think I can say, see your hand off. Just give me like 2 seconds. Sorry, 2 minutes. Let me explain this. Then you can go ahead to speak. Thank you. So when programming, right, a lot of time you run into errors. How do you solve these errors? I want you guys to take in 3 principles on approaching errors generally, right? The first one is that you look at the error code. What's the message saying? What exactly is this message saying? A lot of time when you go to the error, they tell you this is the error you are facing, and this is the line it's coming from. And you can then go there to look for the error. So read through the error message. That's one. Second is that if you read through the error message and still don't understand it, Google it. Copy everything here and go and Google it. I promise you that someone has faced the exact same issue that you're facing. The only difference is that they may not call their own age one. Maybe they're calling that on that thing. But that's the exact thing. So you would always find similar situation like that. And the third is that you ask a friend. If you Google things, you've read through the error message and it's not working and nothing seems working right, reach out to a code developer. You can reach out to your mentor, you can reach out to even your colleague, even your junior, and ask them, are you familiar with this error? Do you know where it's coming from? You know, I can solve it. You guys bring it together and resolve it. So this errors when it comes to this. We don't want to call age, but by the time I write in here and I come here, it tells me 99. Oh, so where's this 99 coming from? It just calling. But then at age, we've given it a value of 99. Which then makes sense that that means whenever we try to call a variable that we declared before, that has a value. Instead of giving us typing out age, it tells us the value of that variable. So what if we want to go for middle name here? Middle name, right? It tells us undefined. And where it's undefined coming from? Obviously, because we have a middle name here, that's it's undefined. What if school attended? Right? School attended is null. So that's right. So let's go to last name as well. So I'm just trying to infer different ones to let you know that you can again call in different variables here. So let's go to a more advanced one. What of person? Person is not. It doesn't look like a normal variable. So let's put person here. So person here gives us a full blown data here to tell us that I have a bunch of data inside of me of age 99, first name, last name. So what if I change the value of this Muktar from the first name here? I say Muktar, I even put AY in front of it, right? And I come here and see the value of person changes immediately because the value of first name is automatic. We're inferring from that value. So everything starts to make sense. All the data are flowing together now, right? So I think that's about it for the elementary stage. The next class we can go into much more advanced data manipulation and DOM manipulation. What if we want to take all of this information we have now, we want to just make it show on the browser, right? We can do a lot of this magic. And how can we change the data inside of here? Even though we declared it, we can come in to say we want to change the data, on the fly like that. So one last thing I want to do, I want to then show you that is this okay, let's come here. So I'm going to take this here. I'm going to put this right after this function, and I'll tell you why. So my first function, my second function. So how do we actually call a function if we want it to work? Don't forget that inside this my first function, we have first name. We are changing the value of first name. Inside the second one, what we are doing is that we are changing the value of middle name. So what will happen when we call the value of person afterwards? So let me even take it back. Let me take it back here. So here we want to say person. How do we change this or change the value of this or add to it? We can either say person dot first name. This will give us, right, is the exact value of what this is, which is Muktar here. So this is how we can get the value. So if I come here and I take this away from here and I put this inside here, what would the value of this our console be? Muktar. But what if I say age? Right? What 99. So what if we want to introduce a new item inside this object? Right? If we say person dot, let's say surname, if you come in and say undefined, meaning that this guy has not been defined, this surname has not been defined. What if we come here? They we want to say person dot surname. I see maybe it is Moshope here. Before this, don't forget that this is executed line by line. So before we want to console, we want to also run this function, which is we want this to run before this. So I want us to take the value after we run it. So before we run it, let's take the value of person. And after we let's get the value of person. No, in between, we run the function. So if I refresh here, I then come here to say this is the first one. Let's put 1 here and 2 here. What do we have here? Middle name is undefined, and Moshope here is surname here. The surname here is Moshope. Now, a fast one has played us over there because you see surname here and see surname here. However, if you put your mouse over here, you see that the value. Okay, let me put it in the first one. The value was evaluated upon first expanding. It may have changed. So brothers nowadays are now smart to know that they are the same. They are the same. They are the same value, or they're the same reference. So a lot of times the console.log shows the updated one. But ideally, in a real life scenario, what would happen is that the surname here would be injected here, right? So that's exactly how we fire a function and how we update line by line. How would that make sense? So that will be the end of this class for today, and you can go into these other sections right about next in the next class. So I'm open to you guys questions and okay. I'm going to mute for now while I go through the questions.
All right, thank you, Muktar. All right, can you check through the chat session? There are questions there. I could remember someone pointed it out that he couldn't install. So can you briefly take us through the installation of VS Code? Most of us on this in this meeting, I've never used VS Code before, and would like you to just take us through that. Then another thing is you could also take us through how to create .js file. Why do we have that JS extension? Then I could also see index.html. Could you also take us how to create after installation, how to go ahead to create post the script.js index.html file, then how to execute this code. Then I hope this is I'm not loading you with a lot of questions. So also after the class, would like you to share this line of code, maybe in in an I'm trying to remember the file extension. Okay, in a maybe in a notepad or that we could go over it. So there are other follow-up questions on the chat. So I think we can start with the installation part. Please feel free to ask your questions. This is a class. Everyone, just be free and ask your questions. So we understand that a lot of us are beginners. So that's we are all here because of you. So feel free to drop your comments and your questions. So please, over to you, Muktar.
I thank you. Thank you, Adenike. Like Adenike said, first question. So, if you say you understand everything next to means that you're not following, or you probably don't get it. So it means that you will be asking enough questions around how we went through all of this parts from start to finish. For the first one, which is the VS Code. Now, what is VS Code? VS Code, like I said, is an IDE, and it is what we use in coding. Just like you would say, let me open my browser. Right. Let's go to VS Code. Now, if you go to Google and you type in VS Code, what would you find there? You would find, link download or to read about VS Code. So there are a lot of IDEs out there. VS Code is just one of the ones that very stable that I would recommend. And it's what you can use to start writing code, editing code, writing a new one. Everything we've done today, we did it with VS Code. So go to VS Code on via Google. You would find information about it, the open source AI editor. What open source here means is that you are not paying for it. Like open source, I'm a big fan of open source. Right? I like free things. I like free software, so to be very specific, right? So open source, what it means is that people came together, right, to contribute and start writing to that very program. Meaning a lot of people came together to write VS Code. Now it is officially owned by Microsoft. In short, if you're using VS Code today and there's a feature you want to add and you feel that or you want to add your own bits to VS Code, there's an open repository where you can go and write your own code. For example, a good example, let's say you want to change the name of this Explorer to Explore. You have a valid argument that it should be Explorer and not Explorer. You can go and write your own update to it and submit it. If they find your contribution value, they would accept it. And everybody, that means officially you're also an open source contributor to VS Code. So again, I'm not to digress. A lot of people came together to write VS Code, but officially owned by Microsoft. They bought it. So if you come here today, you'll find information about it, and you can also download it. Now, when you're downloading it, obviously the browser detects your computer. You're using your OS, which is you're using Windows, or you're using Mac or Linux or whatever OS you're using. It will always show you accordingly. And if you can't find there, you can then click on other platforms. So if you go to other platform, you then find the different versions. Ubuntu, Fedora, Mac, Windows, you can then download that applies to you. Obviously, our advice come to the home page so that you get the one that is recommended for your machine. By machine, I mean your laptop. So you can click on download. I mean, because I already have it, and if you click on it, obviously it takes you to the page and it starts downloading. But because I already have VS Code, I'm going to do this. Now, when you want to install, my installation process will be different from yours. So let me even download it. All right, let me download it. Download set. So now, it's about 247 MB, right? And what that means is that this guy is going to download around 5 minutes now, which just to show you what the installation process on the Mac, right? I'm not in this message telling someone saying that they could zoom out. I'm so sorry. I'm just this now, and I hope that you were able to really see my screen as I was presenting. The next one is information. Okay. If I could confirm if it's case sensitive. No, variable names are not case sensitive. However, you cannot start a variable name with and some special characters. I think you can always start with underscore as well as alphabet. You start a variable name with a number, and it's not case sensitive, right? But it just best practice that you start your variable name with a lowercase. So my name will be small letter y, small letter m, right? Not capital letter M. Because if you start with capital letter M, you are trying to infer another thing entirely, which is much more advanced, which is what we call a class. But that's not what we want to do. Well, that's not what we want to achieve here. So it's always better to stick with best practice. But in terms of case sensitivity, your code is so fine. Okay. I'm not sure I understand what this question is, which is how do you write command? So when you say command, is it the syntax itself? So, but I would then, if it is syntax, which is that, oh, what do you know what you write on this line and the next line? I answered it. I made an inference to it earlier when I said, before you write any code at all, first ask yourself, what do I want to achieve? The only thing I want to achieve is that I want a button to be created. And when you click on this button, an alert message shows up on the browser, or an alert message shows up. That's what I want to achieve. Obviously, the first thing you're doing is creating a button. After creating a button, click events. After click, when they click on it, what do you want? What action do you want? So last time you have to, but that's why you would hear computing as a step-by-step declaration of statement for the computer to then execute. So whatever you lay in step by step is exactly what the computer will execute for you. So what's the difference between the function and the method? Good question. So this function and the method could a lot of time be interchanged, right? They could because by syntax, meaning when you're writing both of them, the same way you write both of them, but it's just in terms of perspective of when to use both of them. So methods are like inbuilt. Function are just like we've written, which is my first function, my second function. You know, that's the way we do. But by the time we want to declare what a method is inbuilt. So look at this dot log console here, for example. Right? If I come here, you see so let me go into that. So what does this dot log mean? Right? You can see that this dot log, right, it takes in an argument. Again, I'll what an argument and what parameters are in the next class. But this log here, it's a method. It's a method inbuilt because we are not the one that created it. JavaScript has done the work behind the scene for us, and we can call on these methods to then reuse them. So but a lot of people just interchange the name in a confusing way, but that's the right approach to them. They all do the same thing, only the method are like the inbuilt functions. Why if you verifying to a function, mean like the function that you created within your code. So that's what I want to take out from it. But when people interchange it, feel free to correct that. That is when you refer to something as a method on a function. How do we install VS Code? Okay, still downloading. How do we create JS and index file? Like I mentioned earlier on, you can always create it within your VS Code by just by clicking here, new file or new folder. Or and create your new folder, your new file from there. If you do that, it will appear here. Exactly to create your JS file as well as your HTML. And don't forget, all you have to do is add this .js to signify that it's a JavaScript file, or .html to signify that it's an HTML file, or .css to declare that it's a CSS file. All right, that's exactly how we create these files. But not show the options select the installation. Can you get on, please? So for this installation, I would say that just go with the default message. So the default setting, there's no harm in it. I think I remember exactly what they will ask you. So just go with the default one. All of this thing that you are going through, all of the steps, you can change them later, but you most probably not even change them because the default exactly works for you. So Kende, you can go ahead to choose the default options. Are you able to run the script in the browser? So we're able to run it by using this. Let me show you the extension for live server. So let me go to the itself. Let me for live server. I will then send the link to you. Or no, let me just open the chat here. It's called live server. So with that live server, can I edit it? Can I edit it? Let me just type it in for live server extension. VS Code extension. Right. So if you download that, it helps you, or it can then fire up it can help you run your script locally. Right. But again, like I mentioned, always make sure that you have your HTML file. So it's easier for it because a lot of time live server gets confused when it doesn't find this HTML file. And the boy, I'm going to drop it in. Right. Right. So you can just copy that and paste it in your index.html. Right. You don't forget that JS must be the same name as your script. You can name it. It doesn't have to be script. We can name it anything, but don't put space in between. Don't put $sign, all those things. Just put like a normal keyword. I would advise that you just use one word in your .js. You can be able to run it. Question says, could you use someone's screen to install into cluster? Yeah, sure. Whoever is installing VS Code at the moment, you can feel free to share your screen as well, so that you can use your own flow to guide on the installation. For my own part of this, it's not downloading. So when I open this, you're sharing your screen. Okay, good. Let's see. Okay, so you can pull up your VS Code, the one you downloaded, so that we can use that. Okay, good. So you can just double click on it. It should start installing, or the setup box should come up. Okay, good. Obviously, I go to terms and conditions. Terms of agreement, rather. Next. Yes, this is, I believe, is the default location of where your softwares are being installed. So yes, what this tells you is that automatically going to create a start menu folder, meaning that when you click on start, you see the option there. You can also check the option of create a desktop icon. Doesn't matter. That's if you want it to be on your desktop, right? The path and everything is fine. Yes, just continue like that. Yep. Install. Then you install. Right. Right. So those are the default options. Then it goes ahead to install. So when it's installed, you can hit your Windows button and search for VS Code. You would find it, as an already installed application. Okay, good. So this is your VS Code, right? Automatically comes bundled with Copilot, but I will not advise that you use Copilot, so you can quickly close it. Okay, so if you look at this page now, what we have on the screen, you can see new file, open file on the left hand side, open folder. This is obviously we have like a new, we have an existing project you want to import. But because we don't have an existing project, what I usually advise is that you have a folder on your computer that you want to be saving your projects. So you can go to your Explorer, right? Let's go to a folder. Create a folder. Just go to where you would want to be saving your project going forward. You can create a new folder somewhere. Okay, so we're going to document. Okay, so do we want to create a new? You can create a new folder. You can type Ctrl+Shift+N on the keyboard as well. Okay, you can do that. Ctrl+Shift+N will also do that. You know, good. You can name it whatever you want. So I would advise that you put in a lot of projects inside here. You can call it, I will not say you call it VS Code. Call it, what would you want to call it, the parent of your project? You can call it project or development project or web development project or dev. On my computer, I always call it dev. So if you want to call it VS Code, you then open it. Open this newly created folder.
A question, sir. So if I'm saving inside this VS folder, and it's inside my OneDrive, I won't be having challenges.
It's inside where?
It's inside the OneDrive folder. The OneDrive.
You won't be having issues now.
Okay.
But what that obviously means is that you can then access this VS Code file from anywhere. Another thing is when you start working on some advanced project, the file or the folder will become very heavy. Right? So it means that you then max out the space on your OneDrive. So that's the implication. But obviously, if your OneDrive has a lot of space, it's okay. But a lot of times, if you want to save your project in cloud, there's a traditional way of going through it, which is called Git, version control Git. But that's the implication of you putting it in the OneDrive. What we're doing is very light, so it should be okay. Our project will not become heavy. So let's go back to that's your folder that I just created. Let's open it. So let's create a new folder. Let's call it my first project or first project. Whatever it is you want, you call it anything. Create a folder. Okay, is the new folder what you want to call it?
No.
Okay.
First project.
No. Okay, let's rename it. I see your camera.
Is the naming correct, sir?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. You can put a space. You can just a folder. Right. So what we want to do is let's go back to our VS Code. So there are two ways to it. You can drag this folder inside your open VS Code, or you can go to your VS Code, open folder, locate this, and open it. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So what do I click on? Open folder. Okay, open folder. Documents.
Yeah.
VS Code. Okay.
Folder. So VS Code now sees this folder as a project folder. So whatever you're doing within here, it knows that this is a project folder. So let's also add the extension. Don't forget the live server extension. So go to, that's the last icon on the left. At the extreme left. Yes, the last one there. The last one at the bottom. Yeah, that one. So let's search for, click it. So let's search for live server here. So that's the first one, the one with the most installations. So just click on that install. So while you click on install, you'll notice at the bottom right of your VS Code, there's a new icon that would appear there when it's done. You'll see a button called Go Live. So what that does is to wrap up this your folder and run it for you on your as a deployment on your server. Okay, I think you can try it again. I'm not sure why.
I don't know. Should I click on it again?
Yeah, sure, yeah, I'm doing.
Unable to.
Okay, maybe download manually. So if you download it,
Okay, then I can now run it.
yes, we can run it.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
So this is how you import your folder into your VS Code. You can then go to files, start creating files and folders as you will. But obviously, you're creating your GS file. You can then create things as you want, toy with it, do your magic with it. Right? If you get stuck at any point, feel free to reach out for help. So inside here, this blank place you have on the left-hand side, you can right-click on it and create a new file. Yes. So you can name this whatever you want. Don't forget, don't put space in between when you're creating your files. Just give it your keyword, then .js. You have officially created your JavaScript file. .js. Good. And so your VS Code is smart enough to detect it as a JS file already, right? So inside here, you can start performing your wonders. So I'm going to drop the snippet of the code sample. We're going to be sending it in so you guys can download it and go through the exact thing we did in practice. You can then take a look at it and use it to create your own as well.
Okay, thank you, sir. So I can stop on I can stop
Sure.
sharing.
Sure.
All right, thank you. Could you just drop the code snippet so I can drop it in the WhatsApp group?
All right, definitely. I will do that.
Forget. Okay, thank you. Please, I hope everyone is on the WhatsApp group. If you're not on the WhatsApp group, please, can you indicate by raising your hands? Because communication for subsequent trainings, like we are to have a training tomorrow, so the time will be dropped in the chat. Okay, Macarius. Okay, can you drop your phone number in the chat with your name? So we continue this session by tomorrow between 5 and 6 based on the availability of facilitator. I'll drop the link. We are still using the same link, but I'll drop the time on the WhatsApp group. So thank you for joining today. It's gonna be an interesting journey. Thank you. Yes.
All right, thank you guys. Thank you everyone. I'm looking forward to meeting everyone tomorrow again. If there's anything, you guys come with your questions, with your blockouts, whatever it is you're having, with your big dreams as well. If you want to build an app, what's the what's the thought process. We can break it down into how that is achieved in the real world. So come with your curiosity, come with your questions as well. And thank you. See you guys tomorrow.
Sorry, before
I
you go,
think
I have a
someone is raising
question.
her hand. Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Can I go ahead with my question?
Yes, please.
Oh, thank you for the section. It's quite somehow overwhelming, but I'm just trying to be able to make